weekend is nearly here. That can only mean one of two things. Firstly, loads of sport, and secondly, another episode of The Punter. I'm Trevor Harris, joined today by Flash Gordon-Watson and by Luke Tarr from Star Sports Bookmakers. Gents, you're very welcome. Plenty of football on the show today. I want to start with the Champions League. What do you think we learnt from midweek? Because the two favoured teams, the two Spanish giants, Real Madrid and Barcelona, both won. Neither hugely convincingly. Both needed late goals, Flash, didn't they, to win those games?
They did, and I think Juve were very sort of so strong by going to Chelsea. And then I think to myself, well, then we won't be looking outside the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona, because Real Madrid, they got out of jail, and for me, Man City could have come away with something.
What about you, Luke? What did you make of the two Spanish sides in midweek?
I think it's important not to overreact after one game or underreact, if you see what I mean. Just try and think where you were before round one and stick to your values, stick to what you thought would happen. At the end of the day, Barcelona and Real Madrid both won. Milan, who we thought were poor, drew 0-0. Chelsea, Juventus, that's a solid result for both of them. I noticed Cluj beat Braga, which enjoyed me winding you up about that one as well. But I think it's important that nothing mental's happened. If you lost, it's not the end of the world. There's plenty of time to come back.
All right, well, let's see if the bookmakers reacted to those early results in the outright market. We can say good evening to the bet butler, Nigel Seeley. How are you, Nigel?
All right, guys, good evening. I think Luke's hit the nail straight on the head there. It's really, as we were, nothing's really changed. Barcelona ahead the betting despite narrowly going through against Spartak Moscow 3-2. Real Madrid 4-1. They were pretty impressive, I thought, in long periods of time. They had a lot more possession of Man City. Manchester United 9-1. They didn't really slip up, but 1-0 victory at home to Galatasaray. Not the result that Manchester United backers would want to have early doors. But Juve impressed me, 16-1. They were going to be a major forces competition. I don't think there was much between them and Chelsea. Manchester City 12-1. I tell you what, I honestly believe one of those, Manchester City or Real Madrid, I think one of them could get to the final this year. And I think Chelsea or Juventus, I think one of those will go out. I think Shakhtar Donetsk sent down a big marker 2-0 in their win. I think at home they're going to be a major force in this competition. And I think we could see one of these two going out. But Barcelona still had them betting 13-5, pretty much as we were, all to play for. Nothing's really changed. And we move on to next week's fixtures.
Yeah, so not much change in the outright market for the Champions League. Or I wouldn't imagine, Nigel, in the Europa League. One of the things that's always mystified me is why people would bet now on the outright market when you've got 8 teams going to come in January or February from the Champions League.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I think why would you pay the bet? You could possibly have the likes of Chelsea or Juventus or one of the big clubs come into this competition. So it's going to be very difficult to have a bet now. But if you were going to have a bet, Atletico Madrid head the market, 8-1 favourites. And the reason why they're 8-1 is we don't know the final field until we actually see what goes on in the Champions League. They've always do well in this competition. Spanish clubs, they're the favourites, worthy favourites as well. Tottenham 16-1, best really hope for. Liverpool, who scored 5 goals, looked pretty good, but obviously letting 3 against young boys. Napoli at 20-1. I think they could be a decent bet in this competition. I think they look pretty classy against in the Champions League last term, and they give Chelsea a run for the money. So 20-1, Napoli could be a bet. Inter Milan 20-1. Who would have thought they would have been that kind of price? That's how they've gone backwards. But Atletico Madrid head the betting 8-1, but be very careful and hold your bets until we see who comes out of the Champions League.
Yeah, that's good advice, Flash, isn't it? Keep your money in your pocket, probably at this stage.
Yeah, unless you're going to go for someone like Napoli at 20-1, because then it gives you a bit of value that obviously you think that of the group that's out there at the moment, they are definitely going to be in the final 8, final 16. So for me, I mean, all them prices, I like Napoli at 20-1.
OK. We don't know the field for the Europa League in February. We do know the field for the Premier League, of course, Luke. Who was your tip at the start? Just remind me before a ball was kicked in the Premier League.
My tip was back Man United, but not until Christmas. I think over the course of history, we've seen that they perform average up until Christmas, and they really kick on from there. And I think if you can back them about 3-1, 7-2, like you could last time at Christmas, that's definitely the angle that I'd be going at it with.
What did you make of United so far, Flash? Because as Nigel said, in the week they weren't great against Galatasaray.
No, I don't think they've been great all season. I mean, they got out of jail against Southampton with obviously Van Persie getting a hat-trick. Yeah. They've done OK, but they're still up there. I see it as a 3-horse race already. Arsenal obviously being the other one. But a lot of people say that overreaction to them doing so well. But if they don't, they're always going to score goals. So if they can sort the problems out of the back and keep clean sheets, they're definitely going to be there. But for me, Man United. One
of the things I find interesting about the way the outright market's changed a bit, Nigel, is not so much at the top of it, but the fact that Arsenal are now very clear fourth favourites, as it were. And there's a big gap between them and the likes of Spurs and Liverpool and the rest.
Yeah, I think Arsenal obviously they would know how well they always score goals. I think the fact that they don't concede it makes them a big runner. I think the disappointing factor is obviously Liverpool, how poor they have been, and that's why they're so clear in this position here at 12-1. Manchester City head the betting at 13-8. I think they're a false favourite. I really do. I think the fact they can concede goals against the teams they're playing, Southampton, Queen's Park Rangers, leaking goals. You saw how their defensive frailties in the Champions League. I think it's going to be a major concern. You can go and buy all the forwards in the world, but if you can't concede goals, you're in trouble. Manchester United, on the other hand, 15-8, pretty solid. Chelsea 4-1. I can't have Chelsea this season. I still think the jury's out on the manager. I don't think he's going to be a great manager over a period of time. I think he did fantastically well last season in the Champions League, but over a season, I'm not so sure about them. And their fixture list has been flattering to them. The point, their high position is due to who they play. They've got some big games coming up. Arsenal 12-1. Some firms have gone single figures. You can get 9-1 as short as that. The rest of them, you could write them off already now. Tottenham maybe coming a little bit good, maybe a little bit better on the spreads. If you're going to buy their points with star spreads, could be a bet. But Man City had the betting at 13-8. I think they're too short.
Interesting. I want to move on to the relegation market, Nigel. I know that Flash has got some firm thoughts about Southampton. We'll come to him in a moment. But first of all, I'm presuming Saints, no points from 4 games. They'll be favourites to go down.
They are favourites. They're long favourites alongside Reading. I thought Reading were very disappointing last week against Tottenham. They're the favourites. 10-11, take your pick. Norwich 6-5. Away from home, Norwich are very poor. We saw they get hammered at Fulham on the opening day. 6-5 there. Wigan 2-1. I went back Wigan at 2-1. Aston Villa 4-1. They're turning it around a bit now. Lambert's last 2 performances have got them going. West Ham, well, I don't know, it's 4-1, no Carroll's out, the goals look a bit thin. They could be a little bit popular. QPR, they won't go down 4-1, they can go out by in January and get themselves safe. But Reading and Southampton, 10-11-2. I thought on the weekend it was back to earth for a Premier League bang. But the thing is with Southampton, the fixture list hasn't been kind to them starting off. They've had some very tough fixtures. Their season starts this weekend, and let's see how they do this weekend. But Reading and Southampton top the betting, but the value for me is Norwich at 6-5.
All right, well, make the case then for us, Flash, for why Saints are going to get out of trouble, because I know you think they will.
Yeah, because they score goals, and at home they're very tough. I mean, they're very confident. They're always they go forward in numbers. And they've already proved they can score 2 against Man City. Well, hardly anyone scored 2 against them last year. 2 against Manchester United. They got beat 6 last week against Arsenal. For long periods, they did do pretty well. So for me, I just think that their home form, and when they go against the teams around them away from home, they will pick up points.
What about you, Luke? Because there's usually at least one semi-surprising side that either goes down or really flirts with relegation. Who do you see maybe filling that role this season?
Well, I'm going to stick once again with what I put up at the beginning of the season.
Okay.
I don't like to change my mind or overreact, and I'm sticking with Southampton at 5-6 to go down. But the other team is Stoke. They're 5-1.
Right.
I thought I put them up at 7-1 to go down at the start of the season. I'm sticking with it. I think they're desperately poor, incredibly poor away from home.
They don't lose at home though, do they?
They're very poor away from home, but they've not been winning necessarily. They don't score enough goals. So one-dimensional. I think everyone will take points off each other around that group down the bottom. And we're looking for a bigger prize team to flirt with relegation, and that'd be the one I'll give you, Stoke at 5-1.
If you're watching Tony, it's Luke. It's not me and Flash, all right? PFA Player of the Year. Here's a fascinating market, chaps. 4 games in, you can bet on this market. I find it interesting that they're pricing up players at this early stage, but at least it provides some value potentially, Flash. We're going to look at the prices in a minute, but just who would be the main contenders for you?
Well, Arsenal's signing from Malaga Caffola, I think he's outstanding. I mean, everything that's come through Arsenal so far has gone through him, and obviously Van Persie. I mean, Van Persie's going to score goals at Man United and probably take the limelight away from the likes of Rooney. Apart from that, you're looking at maybe the Chelsea boys, Oscar, if he continues, but I don't think he will, and the same with Hazard. I don't think he will neither.
What do you think, Luke?
I looked at the market this morning and I thought it was just absolute madness,
Yes.
to be honest with you.
Yes.
From my point of view, looking at the market, there's only one possible bet you can have.
Okay.
Yaya Toure at 16-1 just looks enormous to me. I think he's the best player in the Premier League. I think he'll be the best player at the team that probably win the Premier League. 16-1.
Okay, now I bet you can't guess who is the market leader. Nigel's going to tell us, and I don't understand it, Nigel. Do you?
Well, I haven't seen the prices, so don't tell me yet. But I would guess. Hazard's a favourite, 5-1. I've just seen it there. I think he. Oh, well, what we've seen so far this season, he's probably been the player who's come to the Premier League and taken it with a bang, exactly like Aguero did last season. Took to it to ducks of water and produced goals. He scores amount of penalties. He's topping every fantasy list out there, fantasy football list. So he's early. But this market last season had a very short price favourite early doors, Gareth Bale. Then we had David Silva went odds on, and then Van Persie went on that goal scoring run, and it was so it's a dangerous market to get involved in early doors. I'm going to throw a little name up, isn't it? Mario Fellaini, 40-1. I think he's been absolutely exceptional in the start of the Premier League campaign, and he said he's going to leave in January. He could end up at Manchester United. You've got to be with a team in the top 4, top 5 of the Premier League. You're not looking at Fellaini. If he stays at Everton, he can't win it. So you've got to look at someone in the top 4 or 5. But if he goes, Fellaini at 40-1 is a great bet. But I agree with Luke. Yaya Toure, 16-1, fantastic value.
OK, I'll tell you what, Podolski's not the worst price in the world at 33s if he keeps scoring. Let's move on to Saturday's games, and we're kicking off with the early match, which is Swansea versus Everton at the Liberty Stadium. Let's get the odds first of all from Nigel.
Yeah, I mean, this is a difficult game to call, actually. Obviously, Swansea have started quite well. Last weekend, I saw the bubble slightly bursting, I think, if you were back in Swansea. Everton as well. We know how good they're at home. Away from home, they're not the great sort of side. Any injuries to the teams are in trouble. But with Everton head the bet here, 6-4. I think that's too short. I really do. I think Swansea at home are a decent side. There is doubts about Fellaini for this game. He's pivotal in their bet. They're betting on that. If you can see the team sheet, he's not in it. They will definitely not be 6-4. There'll be a bigger price than that. Draws 9-4, maybe a little bet for me. But I think Swansea at home, you saw how good they were at home last season. Very, very good. 2-1 could be a little bit of value. But all the stats tell you Everton. Everton have got a fantastic record here. They won 2-0 last season. I think Swansea at 2-1, though, could take those stats on the head.
Here's one other key stat. 15 previous meetings between the sides. No wins for Swansea, not a single one. Can they change that tomorrow, Flash?
Not for me. I've gone for the draw. I mean, I look down at most of these fixtures and I think that the draw is a real big runner in most of them. With Everton, they're solid. Even if Swansea score, then you know that Everton have got goals in them. The likes of Jelavic, Morales did brilliantly the other night as well. So, so I've got to go draw.
I was impressed with Everton in that Monday night game against Newcastle. Look, they probably should have won with a few better decisions from the officials.
No, true, but once again, that was at Goodison, and they're a much better team at home. I think that's almost a disrespectful price, 2-1 Swansea at home. All last year, they proved how strong they were at home. You know, they've started with a bang this season. Let's not overreact to one bad performance last week. I think the key thing for me is Jelavic. I think there's a late fitness test for Jelavic tomorrow. If he is out, if he misses out, I'll definitely be looking to back the 2-1 Swansea.
OK. That's the early game, of course, tomorrow, 12:45 kick-off. Plenty of 3 p.m. games. We'll look at those right after this break. You are watching The Punter on Sports Tonight. I'm Trevor Harris. We're going to have a look at the 3 o'clock games on Saturday, kicking off with the league leaders, Chelsea, at home to Stoke City. We were talking earlier, Flash, I know you maybe fancy Stoke to get something, but they've got a rubbish record at Chelsea. They lost 7-0 a couple of years ago, haven't even scored on the last 4 visits. I know Chelsea aren't playing well, but surely it's 3.
Well, again, I'm going to take in the Chelsea had a real rough time of it the other night against Juve. I mean, I felt that they were really lightweight. 2 moments they had a little bit of luck with Oscar's first goal. For me, it was going wide.
It was a deflection.
And the second goal is come out of a complete worldie.
Yeah.
But I felt that Juve bossed the game, and I think that they will have a lot of tiredness in their legs. And if I was Stoke, hard game, lightweight, big gaps. I mean, they could have scored 4 or 5 if the ball had been right at the end. So for me, if they go route 1 into crouch and get people beyond in midfield, I think they can pen them in. So I think Stoke at 4-1 for the draw is unbelievable.
Briefly, Luke, I think you're probably going to agree with me, aren't you, after your comments about Stoke City earlier? Home win.
Home win?
Yes.
What more can you say?
Nothing. It's definitely a home win, and Nigel's got the odds.
Yeah, I mean, they're very short, obviously, Chelsea, but not as short as I anticipated. I thought they'd be about 2-7, 1-3. Not that case. They're 2-5, between 1-2 and 3-1 on, that kind of price. If you like your odds on, they'll be the cornerstone of all the betting accumulators this weekend. 19-2 Stoke, couldn't have that at all, including this bad run. Was a 7-0 hammering some 3 seasons ago. They haven't actually beaten Chelsea since they got into at Stamford Bridge, or haven't even got a point since they come back from the Premier League. The draw, 4-1. Stoke are the draw specialists this season. Drawn their last 4 in the Premier League campaign, all the games they've drawn, and they drew the last 3 in the last Premier League round. Last 7 games Stoke have played have been draws, so I can see where some people might back the 4-1. But it's all about Chelsea for me. Definitely under 2.5 goals in this game. I think Chelsea might nick it 1-0 or 2-0. Can't see Stoke even scoring, let alone winning.
Well, another team that have struggled to score away from home is Villa, just 4 in their last 10 on the road, which is heartening for Southampton. They need something to happen this weekend.
Yeah, they're one of my naps of the weekend, and I think that they'll thoroughly outplay Villa. I think Villa's try and set traps, And the one thing that Southampton like is when teams try and close them down, they play quick triangles around them, they get into good areas and they score goals at home. And I expect them to win quite comfortably tomorrow.
We've mentioned Saints' poor start to the season, but I mean, Villa aren't pulling up any trees either. I know they won last weekend, but there's not much positivity about Aston Villa at the moment, is there, Luke?
Well, no, I've got a real strong opinion on this game,
Okay.
and I know for a fact that you're going to disagree
Don't
with
come to blows, Jack.
strong. Basically, what with their real strong
Make it
start to the
sensible,
season, yes, they've played Man United, Man City, etc. Okay, so everyone's like, oh, the pressure's off now. I think there's far more pressure on them at home to Villa than any other game they played this season. I think those people lining up, they will be as nervous as they've ever been all season because they're expected to go out and get a result. They haven't been expected to do anything this season. I think it'd be nervous. I think it'd be cagey. I think it'd be tight. I think under 2.5 goals at 5-6 is my biggest bet of the weekend, Mr. Flash.
All right, I love it when we get disagreements. Let's have the odds from Nigel.
I totally disagree with Luke completely. I fancy goals in this game.
Yeah.
Southampton have conceded 15. You know, they score lots of goals. They conceded loads and loads and loads. I know South Villa have turned it around a little bit. I think under Paul Lambert. I'm going to sit on the fence of the game. I'm going for the draw at 12-5. I think that's the value. But I totally disagree with Luke. I fancy lots of goals here. I think Southampton only know how to play one way, and that's attack, attack, attack. Villa are the team I think will be more defensive. It's all about Southampton going forward, and they will definitely score. I think both teams to score in this game will be one of my best bets at the weekend. I think Villa hit 2-1, maybe get a little bit money on that. Southampton at 6-4 will be happily back, but as a bookmaker, I think you'll be happy to take both that side of money. But I do fancy goals, over 2.5 goals, and both teams to score from the Butler.
OK, West Brom versus Reading we're going to move on to. Now, you played up front, Flash. What would your manager have said to you if you'd done what Peter Odemwingie did last week? Kicked a defender for no reason, got sent off, and any chance of a comeback gone?
Well, first week, got a 3-game ban. You probably got 2 weeks' wages fined, and if the team does well without you, you won't get back in. For me, West Brom against Reading. Reading were all gruff hunting against Tottenham last week, so they flattered Tottenham and done themselves no favours. They are the type of side, we see them earlier on in the season, away at Stamford Bridge, go 2-1 up there. Again, this is another one. It's a draw for me. I cannot pick between the pair of them. West Brom have only got one forward-thinking, out-and-out striker, and that's Shane Long. So I think Reading will come out the traps, and I'd want to be laying the home team.
Yeah, they need some confidence, Reading, and quickly, because they were totally outplayed by Tottenham last weekend.
Was it disagree day? I think.
Disagree
day.
It was right or wrong.
I think West Brom, we did say at the beginning of the season, they're an unfashionable club,
Yeah.
West Brom. And I like to be with the unfashionable clubs because you normally get a better price. And that's what it's all about, the price where it's wrong. I think they're a big price at 5-6, West Brom. I think everyone's overreacted to one poor performance against Fulham. They were terrible that day. Put a line through it like a horse that got trouble in running. Forget about that. Okay, Odemwingie's out. Brilliant chance for Lukaku to come in now and prove what he can do. I think Reading were beyond bad against Spurs. They were absolutely appalling. Going away from home again, there can't be much confidence there. West Brom, a good solid side at home, and 5-6, one of my 3 bets at the weekend.
Well, talking of fashionable things, let's go to Nigel. He once presented the show in a skirt. If you don't believe me, you can Google it and you'll see it. Where do you go on this game, Nigel?
Well, I stuck up for Flash a minute ago, my old mate Flash. Now I'm ditching the side. I'm going into the blue corner with Luke. I'm going in the Star Sports corner here. West Brom, 17-20, 5-6 for some, but means one is the best Premier League bet of the weekend. Reading were abysmal. My pub team would have beaten them, no problem last week. Very, very disappointing. They were awful, absolutely awful. The goalkeeper, it was as much confidence in him as nobody. I mean, he was all. Federico was totally missed. The goalie was under huge pressure. Kebe's out as well for them. West Brom at home, last 2 games, beaten Liverpool 3-0, beaten Everton 2-0. At home, they were a very, very good side. They don't concede goals. Very strong, very hard place to go and win. Reading, awful. West Brom got beat last week by Fulham, but I tell you what, a lot of people are going to get beat at home by Fulham. Forget that result. West Brom all the way here. Flash, you want to lay West Brom? No way. West Brom win this game.
Well, I'll tell you what, he's right with their defensive record. 7 of 9 clean sheets in the last home games there, going back to last season, but still impressive. West Ham, Sunderland. Sunderland rely so much on Fletcher. He scored all 3 of their goals so far. They've drawn all their games. I thought they were very average against Liverpool and a bit lucky to get a point. West Ham haven't yet conceded at Upton Park.
No, and West Ham are very reliant on the likes of Andy Carroll because, I mean, we saw last week without Andy Carroll going to Norwich, they huffed and puffed, should have scored, maybe should have come out with something from the game. For me, again, and this is one of their mad weekends, I've gone draw again. I really do think that there's going to be a weekend of draws in the Premiership. I think it's very, very dicey to try and make a selection apart from the draw.
You're not creosoting your fence this weekend because you're sitting on it.
I'm not. Well, no, it's not. I don't see it as sitting on because it is an actual selection. I do believe that the draw offers the most value because I think this could be a 0-0, 1-0, 1-1. So again, I have to go with a draw.
A lot of Shrewdies who were tipping up Sunderland to have a good season. Top 8 was talked about. I'm not convinced from what I've seen so far, Luke.
Well, when looking at these two teams, I think West Ham are playing about as well as they can. I think everything's going their way and they're performing. I think Sunderland are a team that are underperforming. They've got a lot of improvement in them, and I believe that will come. But it's a question of when it will come. I think Sessegnon, for one, is massively underperforming. The lad McLean burst onto the scene last year. He's not gone through with it again this season. Larson, a wonderfully creative player, hasn't had a great start to the season. And the man Fletcher's putting the ball in the back of the net. If a couple of these midfielders can step up, have a good game on Saturday, they're strong at the back, Sunderland. I think going on the fact that we hope they improve, I think Sunderland at 5-2 is probably the slight value.
OK, if I can get odds against West Ham, I'm having a bet here, Nigel. Can you oblige me with that?
Well, I tell you, you can. And West Ham are a decent price for the game, 5-4. Not for me though. I'm with Flash. I like the draw at 12-5. I think Sunderland are in for a good season long term. I think they're going to come good. I personally think they'll finish above Newcastle. That's as well I think they'll do. I think their midfield and the striker they've got is as good as anything in the top 8. They're a top 8 front four. Very, very strong. Goal scored at the end of the match. But this game here, I'm going under 2.5 goals. Martin O'Neill, away from home, always sets his team out to go and not get beat. I think under 2.5 goals is a fantastic bet. The draw at 12-5 is my value. And also I have a speculative punt on no goal score around about 10-1.
OK, I want to come back to you, Nigel, for Wigan versus Fulham. Two teams who are far, far better on home soil than they are on their travels. This has a bit of a drawy look about it to me, though.
Yeah, probably has. I mean, the draw's 23-10, a little bit shorter than usual draws, but I think the home team a little bit of value here, 6-4. I think if you go with Fulham this season and you back them at home and you oppose them away from home, you won't go far wrong. And that's been the trend with Fulham, not just only this season, for the last 3 or 4 seasons. The only time they ever beat at home is when they play the likes of Manchester United or the likes of Manchester City or Liverpool. The big clubs come to Craven Cottage, they usually do well. I think Wigan at 6-4 at home here represent a little bit better value against poor travellers Fulham. OK, we're going to take a brief rest from the football and move on to Formula 1 because the Singapore Grand Prix at the weekend. Vettel fastest in first practice. You were pretty sweet on him right from the start, Flash.
Yeah, I was. I spoke to somebody who knows their apples, and they said to me that there's upgrades. That the track suits their top speed. So I mean, I think he was 7-1. I think he's 11-2 now. So for me, it's Vettel all the way. And in doing so, going with Red Bull to on the constructors around 5-6.
What price is Vettel for the win on Sunday, Nigel?
I was going to back someone last week. I forgot to do E1 as well, by the way. Anyway, Lewis Hamilton's the favourite 9-4 here. Vettel flashed his tip 11-2. He did, to be fair, he did say to everyone before the show come on, he was a bet at 7-1, 11-2. Raikkonen 10-1. Alonso 5-1. The only thing I would say about Grand Prix, the Formula 1 season, is I'm convinced Alonso doesn't win the title this year. I tipped him up at the big price at the start of it. I got out a long, long time ago. I'm convinced that the pack is closing in. The McLarens are coming in. The Red Bull are coming back to some pace. Fernando Alonso is a lay now at the short prices. Hamilton a favourite 9-4 to win I think it's the 4th consecutive race. McLaren. Button 11-2, his teammate. Vettel the value at 11-2. You can write everyone else off.
Interesting you talk about the outright there, Nigel, because Alonso says the pressure's all on everyone else. He's got a 37-point lead. Yes, it's been narrowed. 7 races to go. I'm presuming he must be big odds on, is he still, Alonso?
Exactly. 7 races to go and he's 8-13 and the gap is closing. He's not in the fastest car. He was in the fastest car 4 or 5 races ago. He's far too short. Hamilton's the bet. Vettel's the bet. Get on them now. Lay Alonso.
OK, and that race, of course, is on Sunday. You can also bet on the Constructors' Championship. More football when we come back, and we're also going to run the rule over the Ryder Cup, so stay with us. You're watching The Punter on Sports Tonight, and we are going to concentrate on Super Sunday. Manchester City will play Arsenal. Before that, at Anfield, it's Liverpool against Manchester United. Usually, Flash, these games produce goals. I don't think either side has kept a clean sheet for like 2 or 3 years. No,
and neither of them have kept clean sheets so far this season. But I expect Man United to take a leaf out of Arsenal's book and to be patient, keep together, frustrate Liverpool. I mean, they're easily frustrated at the moment. And outboss them in midfield and get the breakaway. They've got the right personnel. So for me, it's a lay of Liverpool and back Man United.
There were a few negative headlines last weekend, Luke, when Liverpool drew at Sunderland. I did that game, and I thought Liverpool were excellent, and they were very unlucky not to win it. I just think there's been a bit of an overreaction to their poor start in terms of points, but they're not playing that badly, I don't think.
I know, but on the flip side, some teams aren't playing that well and they're getting the results, and that's what the Premier League is all about, getting those points on the board, building that momentum, building the confidence in the squad. But when it comes to punting, and this is the punter, it's all about the betting angle, and I like to forget everything else that's happened and just look solely at the prices for this match that we're concentrating on. And for the life of me, I cannot work out how Liverpool and Man United are virtually the same price.
Well, Liverpool are at home.
Well, they're a much poorer side. I think Man United are massive at 15 to 8. I can't believe what I'm looking at. They've got an extra day to prepare in the week. They've got much better players. I think a lot of people have got emotional, brought the Hillsborough thing into the equation, saw the headlines of Liverpool beating Man United for all the fans after the week they've had. But you can't do that. You can't be bringing things into your punting and look solely at the players, solely at what's going to be turning up on the pitch on Saturday. Man United are massive.
You see, I think Liverpool are, but that's what makes punting so special. Everyone's got a view. I think Liverpool are fractional favourites, are they, Nigel? But it's close.
No, Manchester United are obviously the small favourites for this game. The thing is, I personally think, I agree with Luke, I think they should be a lot shorter. This is a Liverpool side. They may have done well in midweek against young boys. They won 5-3. They haven't won a game in the Premier League. They're 15 to 8 for the game. Manchester United, slight favourites at 9 to 5. I was expecting Manchester United to be a little bit short on that. With the draw is always a runner at 12 to 5. I think with these kind of games, if you're in the bookmaker's position, like Star Towers, you've got Ben Keefe there, they've got the managing director sitting there saying to the boys, what team do you want to get in on Sunday? And they're all, 95% of the boys say, let's lay Liverpool at home here. You saw what Arsenal did to them. You saw the performance that they had in the Premier League. Oh, OK, they played well against Sunderland, but the second part of the game, but they didn't score. Luis Suarez doesn't score goals. On the flip side to that, Manchester United rested Robin van Persie at the midweek, in last week against Wigan. They're back, they're fresh, they're hungry. The extra day means massive. I know the same client players will not be playing for Liverpool, but Manchester United at 9 to 5 are fantastic to bet, and you've got to be a layer of Liverpool at 15 to 8.
Just a word of warning. I'm not sure Fergie knows what his best team is. The 4 Premier League games so far this season, only Vidic and Carrick have started all 4, which is interesting. Under-overs, Nigel, mentioned with Flash that generally these games produce goals. Are you looking towards the over 2.5 maybe here?
I think there's going to be lots of goals, the history of lots of goals. I think there's one of these markets you play in running. You know, you look at the first 15, 20 minutes and you sort of ascertain what's going. I think it could be quite a tight fixture. I think Liverpool can't afford to lose another game. They've got to be very tight. So whether they go for the game, I'm not so sure if they will. I think they'll sit back. If they sit back, I think Manchester United will break them down. The over and under 1.5 goal, big odds on over 1.5 goal at 2 to 7, unders at 5 to 2. But this is the market where it's all about, and I can't really disagree with the bookies. It's a flip of the coin job. Even money over 2.5, slight favourite under 2.5 at 10 to 11. But on this game alone, I think anything can go out the window in 15 minutes with these high pressurised games. I think there's better angles, and the angle for me is just laying Liverpool for the match.
You might be surprised to learn Liverpool have had more shots in the Premier League than any other team, 75, but only 15 on target, which means, Flash, either they can't shoot or things might turn around and start going in.
Yeah, it's 20%. That's 1 in 5. And I mean, obviously, that's not good enough. And the big thing is, yes, people got a bit carried away with Liverpool when they got a 2-2 draw against Man City. If they play like they did against Man City, against Manchester United, Man United will suck them in and pick them off because they do turn defence into attack so quickly. And for me, Liverpool are too lightweight. I keep saying it in midfield.
All right, well, you say you're sweet on United, Luke. What if we're looking at correct scores from a punting point of view, where would you be going in that market?
Well, I don't think it's going to be mad, any 3-0s, 4-0s, anything like that. I think the obvious ones are the 1-0, 2-0 United. Personally, I don't like to overcomplicate. I'll just be sticking with the Man United at sort of 7-4, 15 to 8. But 1-0, 2-0, but not really a market for me. OK, well, there are obviously lots of punters who do like playing it, so Nigel can steer us in the direction of a profitable punt, hopefully.
It's a different Nigel, I'm sure. It can't be me asking that. But anyway, I think Liverpool, I think 1-0 if you can have a bet. I think Manchester United to win the match 1-0 probably is a better value at 9 to 1. The favourites to 1-1. It was 1-1 last year, 6 to 1 shot there. Liverpool to win 1-0, 8 to 1. But I think Manchester United to win 1-0 at 9 to 1 could represent some decent value there. I mean, you look at 2-1, Liverpool 11 to 1. I can't see Liverpool scoring 2 goals against anybody apart from a young Swiss side. But the thing is here, Manchester United, different proposition when they in the week. They don't score goals. And if I was going for it, Manchester United 1-0 at 9.
OK, well, that's the earlier game on Sunday. The later game at 4 o'clock, Manchester City against Arsenal. City's last 31 Premier League home games, 29 wins, 2 draws, no defeats. They're mighty hard to bet against at home, aren't they, Flash?
They are, and I just have to take in the game that they've already had this week in the Bernabeu, and I mean, they worked so hard for 75 minutes, and I think that might still be in their legs come Sunday. Arsenal, for me, they've got everything to break down Man City, but Man City, you can't get away from them, so I have to sit on the fence. And again, this is another game that I think will be a draw, and Arsenal will be the happier of the two sides.
We hear that Vito Minone is going to be in goal again. Chesney's still not fit, but he's done okay so far when he's had to.
Oh yeah, no complaints. I think he's equipped himself perfectly well, and it wouldn't worry me if I was an Arsenal fan at all. What I would say is that I think everyone's slightly overreacted to Arsenal this season. You know, they're a very negative vibe about them in the summer.
Yeah.
They've got 8 games from 4 games. 8 goals, 8 points, sorry, from 4 games.
Yeah.
But if you looked at the fixtures, it's pretty much what you would have put them in for. You would have thought, you know, they beat Sunderland and Stoke, draw with Liverpool, draw with Southampton. You know, it's around the mark that we'd put them in for. So I don't see why they've contracted in price so much, and I think they'll struggle away with Man City.
So you think City here?
Yeah, I think City is a decent price for the
They are odds on, but they're probably a bigger, well, they're certainly a bigger price, Nigel, than they would have been if Layers were pricing this up, say, at the start of the season.
Yeah, I think if it was the opening game of the fixture, it'd be about 4 to 7. Manchester City, sort of 8 to 13, that kind of price. Do you think 4 to 5 makes a massive move? I'm not so sure. So 4 to 5 Manchester City here. I think the trouble Man City concede so many goals, you know, and the fact is Arsenal are quite tight this season. The 4 to 1 might entice some people. I agree with Flash. I think 11 to 4, the draw looks a decent proposition. City, though, at the moment at home, they look vulnerable. I think they're very weak favourites in the Premier League market. I don't think they're as great shakes as they were last season. I don't think all is well in the camp. I think things could go wrong very quickly there. You saw what happened with the manager with Joe Hart's comments. I'm not taken by Man City. I think 4 to 5 on first glance may look a bit of value. But you know what? I think it's one of these games for me as a punter. I just want to watch it, maybe pay in running. But I think it's an interesting one. Man City can see lots of goals. Arsenal very tight at the back. 2 contrasting styles. Will it produce goals? Won't it produce goals? That would be the angle I'll be looking at.
Well, I was going to go on to that, actually, because last season they met 3 times, twice in the league, once in the League Cup. Every game finished 1-0. So on that evidence, Flash, maybe you're looking at unders here.
Oh, without a doubt, it's unders. I mean, I think that Arsenal will try and frustrate. Exactly. I think they've gone to Liverpool and they've found something. Sit back, wait, and then hit them on the break, because they've got individuals that turn defence into attack. And you've got to take into account that Man City, the majority of their players will have to play in this game again that played in the Bernabeu. Their legs are going to be full. So I think, for me, I think Arsenal 1-1. You've got to lay Man City.
You concur with that it'll be a low-scoring game, Luke?
I will do. I think the interesting angle is who's going to dominate possession. I mean, Arsenal tend to dominate possession everywhere they go, but Man City always dominate possession on their home pitch. So that's the interesting one for me. And whoever dominates possession would affect the over and under 2.5 goals. But guns ahead, I'd be with you, Flash, on the under 2.5.
I think for once we're as one, Nigel. We're all with the unders.
Yeah, me too, and I can't believe the prices. Under 2.5 goals, 11 to 10. Odds against over 2.5 goals, 4 to 6. I would thought it would be the other way around. I know we've got this Arsenal gun-ho approach, and if you backed Arsenal in games before being under 2.5 goals, you were always losing money because they used to score lots of goals. But away from home, they're a different kind of side than they are at the Emirates. And this season, we know how strong they are at the back. City, on the flip side, have conceded a few goals, but they must be working on that in training. This is going to be, you know, it's concentrating. In miracle football, when teams get beat 36, 37, 40 scores the following week, they work on the areas where they lost the points. And I think the same thing can happen here. Over 2.5 goals, 4 to 6, under 11 to 10. Wrong way round for me. I think under 2.5 goals is certainly a decent bet. I could even make a case going under 1.5 goal at 16 to 5. A little bit too optimistic for me. I'd stick to the under 2.5 goals at 11 to 10.
Yeah, well, you could always play both and split your stakes. I mean, only 1 goal, as I mentioned, split these sides in the 3 games last season. And Arsenal have only conceded once all season, and that was a Chesney error last week at Southampton. So they've looked at a different proposition defensively since Steve Bold took over as the number 2 to Wenger, and maybe that has an impact with certainly correct score betting.
Yeah, and also when you have a team that are you have so much confidence in their back 4, then that means that the midfielders are not so much trying to cover or give you support. They're pushing further up the pitch, and the individuals we're talking about are proper international players. Yeah. So I mean, I look at it and I just think it's a layman City, but I expect it to be a draw. All
right, what kind of correct scores do you expect punters to be favouring, Nigel? Because I'm thinking 1-0 City, 1-1, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm going to go for that kind of mark as well. I'm actually even going to go for a 0-0 draw. I think 0-0 at 14 to 1 is massive. I mean, we know about Arsenal. We know they're not involved. That last season, you would say 0-0 draws Arsenal. You're absolutely crazy. They've had 2 0-0 draws already in 4 games. 0-0 again, 14 to 1. Very different Arsenal side this season. The way they set themselves out, the way they are away from home, totally different from what we've seen in recent history. Manchester City, they can score goals. They can get frustrated, leaky at the back. But I think Arsenal may go there for a draw. I think 0-0, 14-1 is a huge price. If it was going for 1-0 Man City as well at 8-1, that could be tempting. Arsenal 1-0 at 14, but it's all about 1-0 and 0-0 here for me. But going back to, instead of like, I know a few quid in this. Yeah, 5 or 10, a little bit of interest. But my main bet is the under 2.5 goals.
We saw earlier, Luke, that Arsenal were around about 11-1 to win the Premier League. If they were to win on Sunday, where would their price go to? It would have to contract, obviously.
Well, yeah, going and winning at the Etihad against the reigning champions, they'd be in it to at least 9-1, I would have thought. But it's an interesting point. Maybe that's the angle. Now you bring that up. If you fancy Arsenal to win the match at the weekend and you want to trade your bets, back them to win the league rather than back them at 7-2 to win the game. But what was the chant? 1-0 to the Arsenal.
Yes.
Steve Bowles there, he must be itching to get his shirt on, must he? They've all their arms in the air on the training pitch, but they look like the Arsenal of old.
Yeah, I mean, there clearly is a difference now, isn't there, defensively for Arsenal? And in previous years, punters have always known they were susceptible. Maybe not the case anymore.
No, and also you've got to remember is the near post corners they used to do with Steve Bold and Adams and Keown attacking the ball. They've tried it quite a few times so far this season. And if one team you want to do that against is Man City, because Man City have only got Yaya, Company, maybe Lescott. Apart from that, they're all like dwarfs. I mean, no disrespect to the dwarfs. What I'm saying is, if you get that near post flick on, it favours the attacking. So I would look maybe even at like a Vermaelen to get a first goal.
There you go. You heard it first here. Doc, Bashford and Sleepy in the defence of Manchester City. More football when we come back, and we'll also be looking at the Ryder Cup. Don't go away. You're watching The Punter on Sports Tonight, and we're still talking Premier League football. 2 games on Sunday, other than the 2 Super Sunday games, if you see what I mean. The first of which, Newcastle versus Norwich. Norwich's away record is absolutely horrible, Flash. They haven't kept a clean sheet in 35 away games, which is one of the reasons many are tipping them to go down this season.
Yeah, I think that just over even money to go down is one thing, but them to get beat this weekend is another. I fancy Newcastle all the way here. I mean, I'm no scientist, but I just everything, just bar, Cisse, Caballé, Ben Arfa, too many guns. They're just not defending well enough.
Not concerned at all about this apparent rift with Demba Ba and Pardew?
No, not at all. I mean, if I have a riff with you and you score me goals every week, I wouldn't be worried. I'd want to be arguing with you every single day of the week.
OK, all right. We kind of looked at this independently, Luke, and we all kind of thought, yeah, this is value Newcastle. They should be a shorter price than they are.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got up this morning and did a bit of research. There were 4-6 Newcastle and drift, and they're about 5-6 now, which, well, they were late at 4-6 for me, but they're back at 5-6.
Right.
So what concerns me is why they've drifted in the market all day, and you've alluded to the Demba Ba. You don't know if Tiote's done his knee on the training ground, whatever. So I don't think the price is going to change before kick-off tomorrow. And if it is about 5-6, 4-5, I would 100% agree with the lads that that's a big old price for Newcastle.
It's our bet of the week, Nigel, isn't it?
It's certainly my bet of the week, and the reason why they've drifted is because there's bad injury news coming out. They've got obviously Krul, the goalkeeper's out, Tiote's out, they've got Colaccini out. But this is the same Newcastle side that gambled against Everton and got a draw. You know, Everton got back the biggest gamble in the Premier League so far this season. They went from 10-11 into around about 4-7 for the match, and even shorter with some clubs into 2-1 on. At home, they're a different kettle of fish, Newcastle. This is Norwich side. They're not playing a likes of a Liverpool or a Manchester United. This is Norwich. And away from home, we told about how bad they were. The other thing is they played 3 games in very quick succession. They've gone to Martimo to play and got a draw. But that team would totally be nothing like the side of the weekend. I made Newcastle 2-1 on shot to win this game on my tissue on Monday. It may be a little bit too short. I just can't have Norwich at all this season. And at 5-6, you can get on the exchanges, 17-20 with the bookmakers. I fully expect that money to come in when you see the teams line up on Saturday. The draw here, 3-1. Maybe if you can make a case against Newcastle, that's where you'll be putting your money. But the reason for this drift is because of the injuries. And we saw that drift happen against Everton, and it got foiled. The gamble in Everton got foiled. Obviously, Newcastle didn't win, but Newcastle went off 7-1 for that game. At home, there could be 5-6, maybe even 10-11 to beat Norwich. Unheard of prices. You've got to get on.
Fancy goals here, chaps, but just a shade of odds on more than 2.5 goals in this one?
Oh yeah, over 2.5. Yeah, definitely for me. I think this has got a real trouncing look about it. I think they might just get the smell of goals and go for it.
Okay. One more match to look at: Tottenham against QPR. We'll start with you here, Luke. Spurs, to me, haven't convinced yet this season. They don't. I know they played well at Reading last weekend, but they were kind of allowed to. Losing Modric and losing Van der Vaart, there's a bit of lack of creativity there for me at the moment.
Well, I'm just still reeling from the confidence coming out of the Butler that he's got 2 best bets of the weekend, you know. Best bet of the weekend, West Brom. Best bet of the weekend, Newcastle. Look at the confidence in the man. It's unbelievable. But I'm not a 4 to 9 man, but when you look at Tottenham, if you're a coupon guy, you put your doubles, your trebles, your fourfolds together. I'd be surprised if that's not in there. We'll be sat in the office, sat behind the parapet, looking for one of these short ones to get beat on Saturday or Sunday, as the case may be. But I wouldn't have thought Tottenham will get beat at the weekend. I think QPR are poor. They lack togetherness. They lack cohesion. And I also think that selling Modric for 32 million and getting Dembele in for 15 million looks like one of the best bits of business in years.
Yeah, well, Dembele's made a good start to his Spurs career. I know, just briefly, Flash, you quite fancy QPR to maybe pull off a shot.
I do. I mean, at 6 to 1, I think the flat to deceive. Last week, Reading autographed Hunt for the first hour. Then they got themselves together. They went with 2 up top. I expect Queen's Park Rangers to go 2 up top, 4-4-2, not like last year, 4-5-1, wait to get beat. I think that the jury's still massively out with AVB not knowing his best side. Because, yes, you can have Sandro, and then you have Dembele and you have Sigurdsson, but Dembele and Sigurdsson are 2 like-for-like players for me, and that means that Sandro's then going to be isolated and he's going to be at risk. I don't think that this is a Spurs home win.
OK, well, that's going to buck the trend. Big price here if you fancy opposing Tottenham, Nigel.
Certainly. This is my 3rd best. No, it's not really. I tell you one thing about this. I really do. I think Tottenham is quickly becoming the new Liverpool in the sense they're the bookmakers' pals from last season. 2 home games against Norwich and West Brom, heavily backed, and they gave a 1-0 lead away and drew 1-1. Very nervy times at Tottenham. The other thing about it is that the team they played on Thursday in the Europa League against Lazio was virtually a full-strength side. So the same players are playing again. I think QPR 6 to 1 represent a little bit of value, but I think the draw here at 7 to 2 is the way to go. 8 to 15 Tottenham. I think you want to take on Tottenham again this weekend, like you have done, like all the bookies have done in the opening games of the season at home at White Hart Lane. I think that it's very nervous there. The tension around, you can feel it at the place. 8 to 15 is a little bit too short. I certainly wouldn't be backing them. If I was sitting in Star Sports Towers, I'll be a layer, and I'll be hoping for a draw here, like the first 2 games of the season so far at White Hart Lane in the Premier League.
All right, well, obviously, for the 3 of us here, our favourite event of the year is the Eurovision Song Contest. But a close second is the Ryder Cup, and that, of course, is next weekend in Chicago. And I know, Luke, that you, although the Americans are big favourites, you're with our boys here, aren't you, on this?
Yeah, well, I think it's just lazy odds compiling as much as anything. Where is it? Let's make them favourite. Yes, being at home appears to be a massive advantage, but as the years have gone by, more and more of the European boys applying their trade on the American tour. Half of them are over there now, if not more. And 8 to 11 America, 11 to 8 Europe. I think it's a pick 'em, if anything. So, you know, maybe America's slight favourites, but I think 11 to 8, 6 to 4 in a place Europe is not only great value, but I think it's wrong.
You love your goal, Flash. Do you concur with that?
Yeah, I concur that the prices are not quite right, because I expect maybe Great Britain and Europe to be in front at some stage, which means they then will be favourite. I expect America to win. I just think that the length, the putting is going to be massive, and there's a lot of good putters on that American side, and I think that's what it'll come down to, and I think that's why the Americans are a tip for me. All
right, so 11 to 8 though, if you want to go with Europe, odds on the Yanks. Correct score. I've had about 4 people come up to me and say the draw's great value. It's a big price, 14 all. And when you look at the market generally here, Flash, those sort of 13, 15 type scores, it's all going to be close according to the layers.
I've gone for about a 17-11.
Have you?
Yeah, I think that they'll really dominate on the last day, and it could be bigger than that if they're... I expect Europe needs to be about 4 points up going into the last day. OK, so 17-11. I'm surprised, but what do you reckon?
Well, I hope it's tight from a viewing point of view. You know, we all want that staying up late, watching it, all the excitement at 12 all, 13 all, down to the last pairing. I must admit, it's hard enough to find who's going to win it, let alone find the correct score for me. But I'd expect it to be tight. I think 17-11's a lay for me.
Well, it's a 20-1 shot, 17-11. Nigel's got the rest of the correct score prices.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I think the bookies are looking forward. This is the one time when they'll really, really, really take some real hefty bets. I mean, they'll come out and be enforced. And what a fantastic place to be in if you're a bookie. You go in there and you're cheering on the draw because you can get a decent price. We're all going to be at the Star Sports lunch for this game, or the evening, watch the game. Looking forward to that one. But the USA to win it 14.5, 13.5. That's the favourite around about 11-1. You see how competitive it is. It's 11-1, 12-1. These are the favourite markets. Going to be very, very tight. Disagree with Flash. Going to be one-sided as at 17-11 at 20-1. I think that you want to get bigger than that. But I think if you look at these markets here, 15-13, 15-13 either way, that could be a decent way to play it at around about 7-1 the pair. Those could have combined. But I think it's a layer. If you're a bookie laying these big, you can have one big bet on USA, one big bet on Europe. You're going to get the tie running for you at a very, very big price. And at some stage, I think this tie will trade short on 11-1. And if you're having a few quid and want to watch it, I think back the tie at 11, because I think at one stage you'll be sitting on a voucher, could be about a 5-1. I think that could half in price, probably going into the singles at some stage in the final day.
Every year in the Ryder Cup, when they price up top American, Tiger Woods is favourite. And every 2 years, I should say, he fails to deliver. I'm not sure he's a team player, Flash, and he's not having my money at a short price.
No, but if you're going to go with Woods, then you've got to go with Steve Stricker because they'll be partnered. Steve Stricker, unbelievable wedge play, unbelievable putter under the gun. So for me, I've got to go for Steve Stricker and Matt Kuchar.
Any thoughts on top American?
I think it's interesting in a match bet. You know, Stricker's going to be a bigger price than Woods, isn't he? And that'd be an interesting angle for me. I was just having a flick down early, and I noticed of the 12 players in the American team, the 11th biggest price was Zach Johnson at 14-1, and I know it comes down to how much game time he's going to get, but if he plays enough, I think that's definitely the value for me.
These are interesting markets. Let's have a quick rundown with the Butler.
Yeah, I mean, it's 5-1 the field. Tiger Woods heads that field. I know he's going to play with Stricker, but is he a certainty to play every game like he was in the last couple of Ryder Cups? Is he the form horse? Probably, possibly is, because he's Tiger Woods and he brings the crowds in. But on form, I think there's a couple of other people. Mickelson 9-1, not for me at all. Dustin Johnson at 10. Bubba Watson 12-1, fantastic. You know, the rookies come into the last Ryder Cup and really won it for him. Bubba Watson at 12-1 will get my vote. And this is where I'll be looking. The 12-1 shot. Bubba Watson, Matt Kuchar and Keegan Bradley. I want to take on the favourite Tiger Woods. I think most bookmakers out there want to do so. And that is a sort of trend that's happening in bookmaking. Take on Tiger Woods and you get the money. But he is leading this weekend.
All right, Nigel, thank you. Very briefly, top European, Flash, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think an outsider would be Garcia because he just seems to get the best out of him.
He loves it, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I think you've got to go for Luke Donald. He hits fairways, he hits greens. If you don't hit fairways, trouble.
Your namesake, is he a bet, Luke Donald?
Poulter.
Poulter?
Poulter.
OK.
Loves it, confident. Proved it last time when everyone wanted to be against him. And I think he'll go well.
He's 8-1. He'll have the Flash's trousers, that's for sure. Butler's got the full list.
He said he had flash in his trousers. I said, what's happening? Anyway, I mean, Rory McIlroy is the favourite 11-2 in a market. Very, very close market. Very, very great betting market. I think Justin Rose coming back to form this week. And again, looking a bit of form, 9-1. But look at it, 11-2, down to 9-1 with 7 people on the list there. It's anyone's. That's the joy about the Ryder Cup. Have a bet, enjoy it, watch it. We're all off the Star Sports party that will enjoy it. You know, you just enjoy this event. It'd be a great, great thing. But McIlroy the favourite, 11-2, and Tiger. The press will build it up as Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy. There's a lot of other players in this than other players in this story.
All right, thank you very much indeed, Butler. My thanks also, of course, to Flash and to Luke from Star Sports Bookmakers. Whatever you do, enjoy the weekend sport and happy punting. From all of us, bye-bye.